Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're diving deep into something that's both ancient and surprisingly modern. We're talking about the world of UBrews, home brewing, and home winemaking. We're going to get you up to speed pretty quickly on how this, well, timeless craft has evolved, especially for you if you're maybe curious about making your own drinks.
That's right. It's fascinating, really. If you think making your own wine or beer is some kind of recent trend, well, you're in for a surprise. This practice goes back, way back, millennia, in fact.
Okay, so our mission today, we want to unpack that really rich history
Yeah,
and also demystify this modern UBrew concept. These are places, shared facilities, where you can actually craft your own batch of beer or wine. They've got the professional gear, the guidance. It takes away all that hassle you'd normally have at home.
exactly.
And we'll also explore just how accessible and, frankly, how high quality modern wine kits have become. We'll connect those ancient traditions to today's really innovative DIY beverage scene.
It's quite a journey.
Right. It's credible to think this isn't new at all. Like you said, its history is deeply tangled up with human civilization itself. So just how far back are we talking when we say home fermentation?
We're talking potentially 7,000 years, maybe even more. There's archaeological evidence from places like Jiahu in China pointing way back. And, brewing and winemaking, they weren't just ancient traditions. Often they were everyday household tasks, almost a necessity sometimes.
A necessity.
Yeah, think ancient Mesopotamians, Egyptians, Greeks, Chinese. They all had their own versions of fermented drinks, beer and clay pots, honey wines, fruit concoctions. The thing is, often it was simply safer to drink than the local water.
Wow. So less of a fun hobby and more survival. That really changes how you look at it.
Absolutely. It was fundamental, which, makes you ask the question, when did that change? When did it shift from being essential to something people, well, choose to do today?
Good question. That basic necessity must have slowly evolved over centuries. Then let's fast forward quite a bit to the 20th century. Prohibition in the U.S., that obviously put a big pause on a lot of that home tradition.
Right. It drove it underground for a while.
But after repeal, the art, you could say, it started to revive, especially gaining steam in the 60s and 70s. That whole DIY movement really helped.
It did. People started rediscovering these crafts.
And in Canada specifically, homebrewing and winemaking became fully legal and then increasingly mainstream. This was really pushed along by better equipment, becoming available, improved ingredients, and crucially, the arrival of those high-quality kits we're going to talk more about.
That kit development was key to making it accessible.
Definitely. So, okay, for anyone listening who's maybe thought about homebrewing but got put off by, the idea of buying lots of expensive gear or just making a huge mess in the kitchen, this UBrew concept seems like a really interesting alternative. Can you sort of walk us through what that actually looks like if I go to one?
Sure. A really key thing to understand here is the UBrew model. It really took off in British Columbia back in the 90s. And it was specifically designed to solve that exact problem, to help everyday people make really good quality beer and wine without needing that big upfront investment in equipment or, dealing with all the cleanup afterwards.
That convenience factor sounds huge.
Yeah.
So, practically speaking, how does it work? What do I do there?
Well, you go into a UBrew shop, and essentially you pick out a kit first. Could be beer, could be wine, even cider sometimes. The shop provides, well, everything else. The raw ingredients from the kit, the dedicated space with all the professional-grade equipment, and, importantly, their expertise and guidance along the way.
Ah, okay. So they help you out.
Absolutely. You get a very hands-on experience, but you don't have to stress about things like keeping the fermentation temperature just right, or the big bottling day mess, or maybe the most critical part for quality sanitizing absolutely everything properly. That takes time and care.
Right, I've heard sanitation is key.
It really is. So it's kind of like having access to a mini professional brewery or winery, but you are the one actively making your own batch. Your hands are in it.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, let's zoom in on the wine itself.
Yeah.
When I hear wine kit, I have to admit, my first thought might be something, well, maybe not top shelf.
Yeah.
Less than premium, perhaps. Has that perception changed? What's actually in a modern wine kit these days?
That's a very common thought. And honestly, it probably stems from older, maybe less sophisticated kits from years ago. But the reality now, it's dramatically different. Today's wine kits are typically made from high-quality grape must and juice. Must, just to clarify, is the freshly crushed grapes, includes the pulp, skins, seeds, right before fermentation kicks off.
Okay, got it.
And this stuff is often sourced from really well-known, world-renowned wine regions. We're talking places like Napa Valley, Tuscany, Chile, Australia. Even Canada's own Okanagan Valley contributes grape juice. These kits are absolutely nothing like those, dusty old boxes people might vaguely remember.
Wow, that's a huge shift in where the ingredients come from.
Right.
So, okay, what kind of quality can someone realistically expect? How do these kit wines stack up against wines you buy off the shelf?
Well, they're often categorized into tiers, and that usually relates directly to the quality, the complexity, and how long they might need to age.
Right.
You've got your entry-level kits. These are generally ready pretty quickly, maybe 4 to 6 weeks. Great for easy, everyday drinking.
Okay, quick turnaround.
Then you move up to premium kits. These usually need a bit longer, say 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes more. They tend to have a richer body, more complex flavors, and better potential to improve with a bit of aging in the bottle.
Right, step up.
And then what's really interesting are the ultra premium kits. These are fascinating because they often include things like concentrated grape skins or specific oak chips or cubes. They're really designed to mimic the complexity and structure you find in good commercial wines. The results can be surprisingly sophisticated.
Grape skins even.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds serious. So with that kind of potential quality, I'm getting curious. If I decide to try this, what kinds of wine can I actually make? Is it just like generic red and white?
Yeah.
Or is there real variety?
Oh, the variety is a key point here. It's actually quite broad. Pretty much whatever style you prefer, there's likely a kit for it. Thinking reds, you can find bold, structured Cabernet Sauvignon, with those classic dark berry and oak notes. Or maybe something softer, more velvety, like a Merlot with plum and cherry flavors.
Nice.
You could go for a spicy, jammy Shiraz, or Syrah, as it's also known. Or maybe a Malbec, think dark fruit, cocoa, nice smooth tannins. Tannin, by the way, is that compound from grape skins and seeds. Gives wine that drying sensation, that structure in your mouth.
That grip.
Exactly. So lots of red options.
What about whites?
Similar range. You can find kits for Chardonnay, maybe a buttery oaked style, or a lighter, crisper, more citrusy one. There's zesty, grassy Sauvignon Blanc, often with that grapefruit character. You can find off-dry Rieslings, meaning just a touch of sweetness, showing peach and apple notes, or something like Pinot Grigio, typically light, crisp, very easy drinking.
So all the classics are covered.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And beyond those classic grape varieties, you can even find kits for specialty things like fruit wines, peach, blackberry, cranberry, even dessert-style wines like ice wine style or port style. The range is quite impressive.
That's amazing. It really sounds like you could build a whole wine cellar just from kits. Okay, here's something I'm really interested in. Personalization. For someone who likes to, put their own stamp on things, can you actually customize these wines, make them truly your own?
Absolutely. That's a great question, and it really speaks to the appeal. Personal preference is key, and this is where the UBrew process combined with modern kits really shines. You have quite a bit of control. You can often adjust the final sweetness level to your exact taste. You can influence the amount of oak character, more or less, different types of oak maybe. For reds, you can sometimes make choices that affect the tannin level or the overall body, the weight of the wine.
Oh, right.
Even for sparkling options, you can sometimes tweak the carbonation level. And then beyond the liquid itself, you usually get to choose your bottle type, different shapes, colors, and you can design your own custom labels. That's a really popular part.
Ah, the labels. I could see the appeal there.
Right. The whole goal is that this ends up being wine you genuinely made. It reflects your taste. It's got your signature on it. And because you're using that professional equipment at the UBrew facility, the whole process is clean. The fermentation is properly managed, which means the final product is stable. It'll keep well. You can enjoy it over the long term.
That's fantastic. So considering all these improvements, the quality, the variety, the customization, why is now a particularly good time for someone to explore UBrews? Beyond just the cool factor of making your own wine, what are the real tangible benefits for someone today?
That's a really relevant question. If we connect this to the bigger picture, what's happening out there, with alcohol prices generally rising, and maybe sometimes finding the quality in stores can be a bit hit or miss depending on the price point, well, the benefits of UBrew become pretty significant.
Okay, like what specifically?
Well, first off, the savings. This is a big one. You're often looking at costs as low as maybe $3 to $6 per bottle. Now, compare that to buying a similar quality wine in a store, which might easily cost you $15, $20, even $25 or more. The difference is substantial.
Wow, $3 to $6 a bottle.
That's
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It really adds up, especially if you enjoy wine regularly. Then there's the satisfaction factor. You get that genuine joy of crafting something with your own hands, that sense of accomplishment. But crucially, without all the mess and hassle and equipment clutter you'd have trying to do it all from scratch at home.
The best of both worlds, kinda?
Sort of, yeah. And it can be a great social activity, too. Think about it. You could go brew with friends, make a day of it. You can make really personalized, thoughtful gifts for people, or maybe even start